Jeffrey Epstein built an empire on money, power, and the darkest of secrets, weaving a web that stretched from the world's most exclusive boardrooms to the shadows of private islands. His influence was felt in places where few could ever hope to tread, and his reach extended far beyond what most could imagine. He moved effortlessly through elite circles, rubbing shoulders with billionaires, politicians, and royalty, all while orchestrating a global sex trafficking ring that preyed on the vulnerable and exploited the powerless. Behind the glamour and privilege, a sinister operation thrived, protected by silence and complicity. His 2019 arrest and subsequent death in a New York jail cell left the world reeling, and haunting questions echoed across continents. Who knew? Who helped? And how did he manage to evade justice for so many years, despite mounting evidence and persistent rumors? The truth, many believed, was buried deep within government files, locked away, redacted, and protected by powerful interests. For years, the public could only speculate about the full extent of Epstein's crimes and the identities of those who enabled him. Victims and journalists demanded transparency, not just to expose Epstein, but to reveal the powerful network that enabled him. Survivors bravely stepped forward, sharing their stories in hopes of sparking change, while investigative reporters worked tirelessly to uncover the truth, piece by piece. The 2007 non-prosecution deal he received in Florida became a symbol of a justice system that favored the wealthy and well-connected, fueling outrage and calls for reform. It was a stark reminder of how influence and privilege could bend the rules, leaving victims without recourse. In 2025, after years of mounting pressure and public outcry, Congress passed the Epstein Files Transparency Act, forcing the Department of Justice to release its trove of investigative materials. Lawmakers promised that no one, no matter how powerful, would be shielded from accountability. This wasn't just about one man's crimes. It was about restoring faith in institutions that had failed, and about giving a voice to those who had been silenced for too long. The nation watched, hoping for justice and demanding answers. The world waited with bated breath to see whose names would be revealed, and what stories those long-hidden files would finally tell. Would the truth finally come to light, or would new questions emerge from the shadows? The release promised a reckoning, a moment to confront the full, ugly truth, and, perhaps, to begin the long process of healing and accountability. January 2026 saw the Department of Justice release over 3 million pages of Epstein-related documents, a historic data dump. The files included interviews, financial records, flight logs, emails, and video depositions, but also left many names redacted and some files withheld. This avalanche of raw, unorganized data was the result of the Transparency Act, signed by President Trump. Sifting through the chaos, journalists and the public searched for connections among the world's most powerful. The files offered a rare, unfiltered look into Epstein's criminal enterprise, and the government struggled to stop him. Yet, the sheer volume and redactions meant the search for answers was only beginning. The promise of transparency came with the challenge of making sense of it all. Among the millions of pages, Donald Trump's name appeared over 800 times, fueling intense scrutiny. The files confirmed Trump and Epstein's close social ties in the 1990s and 2000s, but the most explosive content was a list of unverified sexual assault allegations. Most tips were anonymous or secondhand, including a reference to a dropped lawsuit accusing Trump of rape at an Epstein party. One victim told the FBI she was introduced to Trump by Ghislaine Maxwell, but nothing happened. The files painted a murky picture: proximity, allegations, but no direct corroborated evidence of criminal acts. For critics, it was damning. For supporters, a smear campaign. The documents left the public to grapple with the difference between association and proof. The specter of Epstein's crimes loomed over every name. As speculation mounted, the Department of Justice issued a statement. There was no credible evidence to support the claims against Trump. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche explained that most tips were anonymous or unverified, included only due to legal obligation. The DOJ labeled the claims unfounded and soon removed the list of allegations from public view. Trump's allies called this exoneration. Critics questioned the impartiality of a DOJ led by a former Trump appointee. Trump declared himself vindicated, claiming the files cleared his name, and that he'd always distanced himself from Epstein. The DOJ's stance fueled political divides, even as new details about Trump's association with Epstein emerged. The official response became ammunition in a battle over narrative, not truth. Despite the DOJ's dismissal of criminal allegations, the files revealed Trump's relationship with Epstein was far closer than he'd admitted. Flight logs confirmed Trump flew on Epstein's private jet multiple times in the 1990s, contradicting his public denials. DOJ subpoenas to Mar-a-Lago linked Trump's club to Epstein's recruitment of victims, including Virginia Giuffre. These revelations shifted the conversation from rumor to documented fact. Trump's world overlapped with Epstein's in significant ways, raising questions about what he knew. The files didn't indict Trump, but they exposed a disturbing proximity and forced a re-evaluation of his denials. The evidence was clear. Trump was not a distant acquaintance, but part of Epstein's orbit. The document release was marred by catastrophic redaction failures, exposing the names of dozens of Epstein's victims, including minors. While some victims' identities were revealed, many powerful associates remained protected, sparking outrage. Media outlets quickly reported the errors, and survivors were re-traumatized by the exposure. The DOJ blamed the volume of documents, but critics called this excuse hollow, citing a year's worth of preparation. The failures underscored a painful truth. Even in seeking transparency, the system failed to protect the vulnerable. Public trust in the process was further eroded by the government's mishandling of sensitive data. Trump wasn't the only powerful figure exposed. The files implicated a surprising array of influential people from across the globe, spanning politics, business, and even the tech world. The files revealed a vast web of elites who maintained contact with Epstein after his 2008 conviction, showing that his social circle remained robust despite his criminal record. Among the most notable was Elon Musk. Emails showed Musk coordinated with Epstein about visiting his private island, directly contradicting Musk's public denials and raising questions about the true nature of their relationship. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick and former White House counsel Kathy Rumler were also shown to have close ties, with records indicating they attended private gatherings and exchanged favors with Epstein. These favors included luxury trips on private jets and invitations to exclusive events, blurring the lines between professional courtesy and personal gain. Former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak and his wife reportedly stayed at Epstein's lavish New York apartment multiple times, further highlighting the extent of Epstein's reach into international politics. The documents revealed a culture of complicity, where powerful individuals continued to associate with Epstein, seemingly undeterred by his criminal past. For many in these circles, Epstein's conviction was no barrier to continued association. In fact, some appeared to ignore or downplay the scandal entirely. The files challenged the narrative of Epstein as a lone monster, instead exposing a system where silence and mutual benefit protected the powerful. This network of moral compromise among the global elite suggests that Epstein's influence was not an anomaly, but a symptom of deeper issues within these circles. Ultimately, Epstein's power was rooted in the very connections now brought to light, forcing the world to confront uncomfortable truths about those at the top. The January 2026 release marked a turning point, a victory for transparency, but also a sobering lesson in institutional failure. For years, the public demanded answers, and when the files finally emerged, they exposed not only hidden truths, but also the cost of secrecy. The moment was both historic and deeply unsettling, forcing the nation to confront uncomfortable realities about those in power. Trump claimed vindication, but the files undercut years of denial, revealing his proximity to Epstein and a culture of elite impunity. The documents painted a picture of relationships and meetings that had long been denied or downplayed, raising new questions about accountability at the highest levels. For many, the revelations shattered illusions about the separation between the powerful and the law. The DOJ's mishandling of victim privacy drew condemnation, reinforcing the sense that the system protects the powerful over the vulnerable. Critics argued that the very institutions meant to safeguard justice had instead perpetuated harm, leaving survivors feeling betrayed and exposed. The outrage was palpable, echoing through protests and calls for reform. A formal report to Congress listing all implicated officials was still pending, leaving the public to wonder if the full truth would ever emerge. Lawmakers faced mounting pressure to act decisively, but delays and bureaucratic hurdles fueled suspicion and frustration. The nation watched, waiting for answers that seemed just out of reach. The files provided concrete evidence of how deeply Epstein's world penetrated the highest levels of power. Names, dates, and transactions revealed a web of influence that spanned decades, implicating individuals once thought untouchable. The magnitude of the cover-up became impossible to ignore. Ultimately, the release underscored the need for truth and accountability in a functioning democracy. Without transparency, trust in institutions erodes, and justice becomes an empty promise. The events of 2026 served as a stark warning of what happens when secrecy is allowed to fester. The Epstein saga is a painful reminder of how power corrupts and institutions can fail. It challenges us to reflect on the systems we trust and the vigilance required to hold them accountable. Only by facing these truths can we hope to prevent such failures in the future. The path forward demands unwavering commitment to transparency, justice, and centering the voices of victims. Real change will require courage, empathy, and a collective promise to never let silence shield wrongdoing again.